There we are. We are live now. Yeah. We're getting it together, guys. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Marvel Movie Talk, and we are talking about Loki after show for the episode 5. And episode 4, I wrote 5 because it's episode 5. Okay, that makes me feel even happier because I thought we were ending the show even sooner than we are. Episode 4, I am corrected, but I'm corrected because I have people that are better than me that are joining me. And first, I want to send it over to Kate. I'm going to call you the Black Widow of the group. That's how I'm going to introduce you today.
Yes.
Because, I'm really upset. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really jealous. You went to go see the Black Widow premiere this week. We're gonna dive deeper into that, but I just want to get a quick question. How was it? Good, great, bad? What you thinking?
It's probably the most different of all the Marvel movies that have been done so far. I really enjoyed the ride. I have questions about it, which Christian and I are gonna do a when it comes out episode, and I do have questions about it. I do have questions on what the movie was about or who it was about. But it was a great way for Black Widow to kind of exit the MCU with her standalone movie. It was really awesome. They did a different kind of genre twist on it. I really enjoyed it.
That's what's up. And it's funny you said who it was about because I've read a couple different things in social and just the things that are coming out. And I don't want to dive too much deeper into it, but it's just funny that you said who the movie was about since it's a Scarlett Johansson Black Widow movie. But we are also not alone. We have the Count, Eric Connors. How are you doing?
Woo!
Good. Our successful overthrow of Christian has occurred. We are the timekeepers. There are no timekeepers.
There are 3 of us.
Cuckoo. I'm the Wilford Brimley one. And also, so Kate might have seen Black Widow, but I rewatched Black Widow starring Kerry Russell and Deborah Winger, which has nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just because I don't want to be one-upped by the likes of Kate and Christian, Jeff and I actually had a special screening party of it.
It actually was really funny because I walked up to Christian. It was the first time we'd ever met. And I've been talking to him since January, and I'm just like,
oh, you never physically met each other?
No, I've never physically met Christian. So we were in the movie theater. I'm like, nice to meet you.
Were you surprised that Christian's only 3'6"?
Yep.
Yes, I was surprised at his hobbit-like stature. He's such a big personality.
Exactly. Over camera, you just think he's 6'6", and then
I'm thinner than Jeff. In real life, I'm thinner than Jeff.
Oh,
exactly. You just the cameras. You never know. Honestly,
everything makes me look terrible. Oh my god, I'm so hot.
Hollywood is all fake. But no. You said it. You said Christian is not with us. He is busy, but we're holding down the fort, talking about Loki episode 4. And there was we started jumping in and talking before we even went live because there was so much that happened in this episode. We got Sylvie's backstory. We got Loki tortured and expresses his love for himself. Sylvie, whatever. Morbius finds out the truth, and so does more of the timekeepers. And then we got the variant versus the timekeepers and the showdown of all showdowns. Or was it not? It might have been a letdown. We'll talk about it. We're going to get into all the things that happened in this episode. First, what are your overall thoughts, Kate?
The first thing I thought at the end of the episode when it's wait, and they reveal the head of the robot, I was just like, fuck, Sam was right. There's only 3.
I was like, what? Wild.
I actually really enjoyed this episode, and I thought it was crazy, and I was wondering, because in the opening credits, they're really good at the previously on, of kind of touching on everybody who they're going to hit in the episode. And I really enjoyed that they touched on B20's story and that she's not just this hulking, henchman, that it's something happened in her head. And you saw it's B15 and C20. So you saw C20, she was completely normal. She was completely she wasn't devolving. She was just trying to have a conversation about something. And it was very much and it reminded me, not just because I've, live in this weird feminist world, but the silencing of women in this like weird way of just like, no, that's not your story. No, that's not your story. And it showed this like kind of like underbelly of the timekeepers, but also knowing that Ravana, who was revealed to be A23, that was her stamp on her uniform, which might reveal Avengers 23, which is where she first showed up. How did she move up from being a Minuteman to one of the like heads of it, and that there is like a hierarchy of like, I will protect this thing, even though I know it's probably not right. And like, how much does she actually know? And how much does she, lie to people?
Full transparency. I write down like notes of like questions I want to ask and stuff. Literally, my last question is, how is Renslayer just like the main bad guy? Like,
yes,
like how did we get to that? Because there was one, like we see the backstory in this episode, but just from the whole series starting, we see her as like kind of in control, but also she believes everything Mobius is saying, and she believes that the timekeepers are the end all be all and everything. And then you see at the end, she was just a normal person, just like everybody else. And then she finds out the truth, which we didn't really see, but she finds out the truth, and she's okay with it. And now she's like leading it on. It's craziness. Eric, what'd you think?
Yeah, well, it's funny. You at the beginning here said episode 4, or no, episode 5, and we're like, no, it's episode 4. But it's funny because in some ways I felt like this was episode 5,
right?
Because it seemed like this is the kind of episode you do as your penultimate for a season, where a lot of stuff comes to fruition, a lot of stuff kind of rises to the surface. This is a really, really dense episode. There is so much that happens here. Although it didn't answer one of my big burning questions. What happened to all the explosives? I mean, I suppose they got them before they went off. I'm not sure. But like, that was the one thing I realized, like last week we were talking, well, I was really into that sort of character study, Doctor Who kind of episode. So I didn't mind. And then this episode, at one point, I found I didn't mind once again, because there was so much stuff going on. I was like, wait a minute, the sort of most awesome cliffhanger still hasn't really been touched on. Or maybe I'm crazy and I just missed it. What happened to all those explosives that got sort of teleported everywhere? Like, we don't know, but I thought this episode was great. Go jump in.
No, it seems like when B-15 and Mobius were watching the sacred timeline and they were trying to figure out like where they were in the timeline and try to find them, that all of the Nexus events were solved.
Yeah,
because it was a blank timeline again.
You're right.
The line looked normal. They were watching Morag. I did that little like pause and look. They were watching Morag to make sure it was okay, but like it seemed like the last time I saw that screen, it was like all crazy, and the next time I saw it, it was like clean and beautiful again.
Yeah.
I miss Casey though. Where's Casey?
We didn't get Casey in this episode, but I
know.
Listen, he's not gone as long as we remember him, Kate.
It's like Red Wing.
Right.
Very true.
I think Casey's my Red Wing.
No, but I popped up Daniel Drew, his thing, and he was just saying, let me get back to what he said. He was like, like he agreed with you. He didn't understand how they just dealt with all the bombs, because to be honest with you, I totally forgot about him. Everything was going by so quick. I totally forgot about those.
It's a total Monday morning quarterback thing here.
Right.
Or Tuesday morning if it's a Monday night game. Right. Because like in the end of it all, this episode was so great. Like, and I'll tell you, one little bit of sadness for me with this. My older son is now at camp. And this, as you all know, has been the wonderful sort of Conner family bonding has been every week we watch the Star Wars and Marvel shows and try to explain to my wife what the hell is happening. Even though she's seen them all at this point, but she's like, no, stuff's happening. But then this one, I was like, he doesn't get to watch this for 6 weeks. That poor kid. I was tempted to break him out of camp for one night just to show it to him, but instead I'll let him be. He's better off without me for 6 weeks, I assure you. But yeah, this episode I thought was really remarkable storytelling and so dense, and also really shows how wonderful Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson's working relationship is. Their chemistry is incredible. I mean, it's such a good partnership on screen that come Emmy time, I really do hope both of them are considered, because they're really they're elevating the material just by being in it.
Yeah,
I love that.
There was a lot of dialogue, but like I feel like they told more than what the dialogue said in those scenes. Yeah. And in that torture scene, he was sent to Lady Sif for a little bit, Loki was, but every so often you would see him come back and talk to Mobius. How'd you feel about that? And then like you kind of see Mobius kind of hearing him out a little bit more each time.
Also, this is the first time Lady Sif has reappeared in the MCU since Thor: The Dark World. She hasn't been in it since then.
I feel like they're showing us. Don't worry, Thor 2 wasn't that bad. Like the other Thor movies, they're not that bad.
The Thor: Dark World apology tour continues. It started in Avengers Endgame and it's just been working its way across platforms ever since. Daniel Drew was happy with Lady Sif, by the way.
And we technically don't know if she died because she wasn't involved in Ragnarok at all. She wasn't one of the Warriors 3 that was killed by Hela, and we don't know if she got off the planet, and we don't know if she's we don't know where the hell she is. So maybe she'll show up in Love and Thunder.
So what did you guys think about her coming in? Because Cammy Egan says, I like that Sylvie, but I think the relationship between her and Loki are built. Okay, so this is about Sylvie. I misread that. What do you think about the relationship between Lady Sif and Loki? Because I thought it was kind of random for her to be in this episode because we haven't seen her in so long. And Cammy, we'll get back to your statement because we're definitely going to be talking about the relationship between Loki and Sylvie.
What's weird about Lady Sif coming in is that I don't think she really had I think she was the easiest actor they could get, quite honestly, that would have an impact of who was in Loki's previous life. Like they could definitely not get what I was disappointed by was they couldn't get Rene Russo back. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would have been a Rene Russo scene.
Yeah.
But the problem is it was to show you're alone, because it was the, contrast to that Nexus event that was created by Sylvie and Loki. So I think to show him as someone who totally disrespects him, someone who never will believe in him, in contrast with someone who might believe in him, is why they chose Sif over Frigga. Mm-hmm. Because they could have gotten Rene Russo back if they wanted to, and I'm sure I'm sure she's coming. There's no way that they can't finish that story. But I feel like, knowing what I remember from Lady Sif, how she feels about Loki in the first 2 movies, which is all I have to go off of. Yeah. I feel like that was a good choice. I just wish that Loki would have believed it more. But I think the inherent thing is that he does believe that he deserves to be alone. And so that was the whole, because you don't deserve to be alone, you start to believe something different, that in itself causes a Nexus event.
Well, and I liked how it reminded me, Doctor Strange when he was in that time loop where he got killed over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Except, in that one, Doctor Strange set it up himself. He's sort of I can keep doing this and you can't break this spell. Every time you kill me, I'm just going to come back. We'll do this dance again. But this one, he's forced into it. And I was really impressed that they actually found a whole arc within that it was almost 12 steps, but 12 steps of, self-flagellation. He's just going through it again and again. He tries to reason with her this way, that way. And then finally, when it seems like he's actually heard her, reasoned with her, he still gets a kick. He's still getting beaten every time. And then finally, when Mobius comes in, it's that great moment of okay, you've beaten me down. And I was curious, how many times do you think he did it?
He said 1,000.
It was he said 1,000? That's crazy.
He said, I've heard this 1,000 times.
But I guess that would be literal then. So yeah, that's hysterical. So no, but I thought it was she's someone we don't have that much to go off of. So in some ways they could kind of make her whatever need be. the cutting of the hair, did that happen in those Thor movies?
So no, that is a Norse myth legend. So when Lady Sif was Thor's wife, in Norse mythology, there was a story where Loki, her hair was gold obviously for being from Asgard, and it wasn't, with the brown locks, but Loki cuts her golden hair, which she is very proud of.
I'd say.
So that's a nod to her origin story and her myth.
This deep track provided to you by Kate.
Exactly. The more you know. The more you know. And
the more you know.
I'm gonna jump back to what Cam Egan was talking about, because nope, that's the wrong one. I'm still getting used to this thing, trying to pull tweets. Here we go. Where we talk about the relationship between Loki and Sylvie, because we kind of talked about this last week, and then I personally didn't think Disney Plus would be going this route, just because, in the family, that kind of stuff, incest, whatever you want to call it. But they did go this way. Mm-hmm. I feel like they took a different route because of how they explained it, how Owen Wilson kind of made fun of it. I think it was Disney Plus acceptable. But were you guys surprised, one? And then do you think there is like chemistry? Because Cammy Egan doesn't think there's chemistry. I'll go with you, Kate.
They're British. Just kidding.
So yes.
Everything's a bit drier in England.
Everything's a bit muted. I mean, I oddly think they're really well suited, but it's also like, as Owen Wilson, as it's like you fell in love with yourself, which is something that we were talking about last week, which I thought was really funny. I guess I'm just so involved in their story that I don't even question whether they have chemistry at all. Mm-hmm. And maybe they don't have chemistry, but they're just so good at what they're doing. Like, I just believe them.
That's a good way to.
I was gonna say, so do you? Because we know that Loki has feelings. Do you think Sylvie has feelings? Because there was moments and times where she was given certain looks that I kind of questioned.
I think that it's the question of like, she's been so single-minded for so very long that it hasn't even really crossed her mind to like want anything other than the destruction of the people that hurt her the most. And I don't think she's going to figure it out until, she lost him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she got so angry at Renslayer, to be able to pull that, pruning rod out of her hand.
I think for me, it's interesting, this idea of chemistry. It's a really good point, Kate. Like, is it chemistry? I mean, in essence, like, what is their connection? On one hand, there's the joke of Woody Allen's joke way back when of don't make fun of masturbation. It's sex with someone I love. And for some reason, I was thinking of that quote a little bit during this episode, because really, what do they see as someone who understands them? Mm-hmm. And them is, I think, the choice pronoun here too, because it's like they get each other. Oh, Craig, we try our best. I think there's this idea of like, it's a god of mischief. He does all this just so he's heard, like a little kid, right? And I'm sure we all had that kid in our class when we were younger. Heck, you might have been that kid in your class when you were younger. But this idea of like, you do these things so people notice you. Well, these are two people who in that moment really, I feel like, to quote Avatar, I see you. Like, I notice you. I understand you. And I thought there was something like profoundly gratifying about seeing Loki have that moment, for both of them, really, for Sylvie as well, where they truly see each other. And I thought those scenes of them on the planet as it's falling apart were as artistic as anything in the Marvel universe has given us. Right. I mean, I found this moment emotional, visceral, and profoundly moving. And so then they, of course, disappear. And then when we see them split up, that they are concerned about this other person, because it's like they just get them. And I think that's what's really exciting about their relationship, whether or not they how far they push this sort of actual romantic angle, we'll see. I definitely think it will be the strangest kiss this side of Luke kissing Leia. But I think there's something to be said for finding someone who gets you, and how hard that is, especially when you've lived as many lives as they have and they never have found that person. So, here's two unusual soulmates, I guess you'd say.
Exactly. I like that.
I like that. Even if, they're you or a reincarnated version of you. But hey, you never know who you love. One person who, exactly. And one person who wasn't about the love is Mobius, because he's obviously saying it was more narcissistic than love. But I mean, not everybody understands. But one thing, he was going through a lot though, because he starts to find out the truth that he's a variant. Everybody's a variant. Timekeepers are lying to everyone. And we've kind of seen him through the first couple episodes get the feeling that there's more to this. I need more information. He starts asking Renslayer more and more questions, and you can just see he's more curious. Now it's like he gets all the information. He even sees the other Minutemen like losing her mind and finding out the whole truth. What did you think about his revelation, this scene, and unfortunately his end so far? And I'll go with you, Eric. We'll start with you this time.
Yeah,
I mean, that moment where he's what they call it, pruning, like that one was like, oh shit, did they just do that? And like, with 2 episodes left, and I was like, oh my god, now that's bold. Like, particularly because this episode gave us so much depth to Owen Wilson's character that they then turn and do that. But then the second they made Loki do that, Loki disappear and he reappears, then it's like, well, I guess Owen Wilson's not dead. So in some ways, I almost wish that they maybe ended on the beat of Mobius getting pruned, because I thought like that's actually a pretty solid cliffhanger. But once Loki had it as well, it's kind of like the snap at the end of Infinity War when you saw so many of them disappear. Like, well, they're not going to kill them all. So it kind of in some ways maximizes the drama while minimizing the drama, if that's such a thing. But all that stuff at the end, the reveal, and I do have a image I sent you of one of the timekeepers. I was like, this is the timekeepers? And so I'm kind of glad that it was just like kind of a somewhat cheesy android. Because when I looked at them, I'm like, all right, this is really underwhelming. Once, like, I love the sort of shots of them in darkness with the smoke, and it's like the wide shot where they're obscured, you don't quite see it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kate.
The whole series has reminded me, and like this episode kind of confirmed it reminded me of the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Like down to like, you have Loki kind of being this like Dorothy-like character. And you have like all of the yellow down the hallway, the golden, That
was my first thought when I saw him. I'm like, is it Lorax or Wilford Brimley, or is it both? And then I got really excited about the idea of, before Wilford Brimley shuffled off this mortal coil, that he and a Lorax did reproduce, and thus the Timekeeper. I hope that guy comes back, by the way, or at least we see the I don't know, the inspiration for him in whatever form. Just like the one kind of looks like Kang.
Right.
But you're totally right. That's Wizard of Oz, right? Yeah, pay no attention.
Yeah, it's like follow the yellow lights down the hall, and the golden elevator. It's the yellow brick road, and then they get taken to Oz, and it's just so underwhelming. And it's like, and then the head is revealed to be an android, and it's like, pay no attention to the timekeepers behind the curtain. So it's like they have this whole setup going where it's like it's built up to be this great thing, and it's actually just a facade. So who is really running the facade? Because it's still being run by something because it has to. Oz still exists, but it's who's controlling it.
Right, and there's a moment where I think he even looks up, which I thought was great, because then it's like, okay, is there another? Are we in the only penthouse?
Are we on the right floor?
Love that.
So, 2 things. Before we get into like some comments, because Cammie Egan said something, and then Daniel Drew also had a couple different points. I want to mention, did you see they went on the poster? I don't know if you guys saw it or mentioned it already. The poster on the wall in the hallway where it said, "Did you get them all verified through deletion?" What did you guys think about that? And like, what kind of statement is that? And first off, like, I read that, I like paused. I'm like, okay, that's a lot. That's like, even if you think, okay, this is my job, this is what our duties are supposed to, verified through deletion just seems aggressive. But Kate, what were you thinking when you saw that?
I think because B-15 is finally understanding that she's a variant and that she's one of many people, and it's like she's killed her own kind basically, and it's like, did you get them all? And it's like she's deleted people, and it's like, what has that turned into? And I really think that the biggest, when she takes Sylvie back to Rock's cart and has her like, show me, show me, show me. And then she starts crying and she's like, I looked happy. And it's like, there's this kind of like verify through deletion is this like very cold way of saying, did you kill everybody? Versus this like happy existence that she might have led otherwise. And it's like, she prevented the happiness of other people. And I think that her being confronted with that poster was definitely for the Minutemen. It was for her job. It was for her pruning the variants of the time verse of the multiverse. And it's, what she's being confronted with, like, I could have been deleted by me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like like she starts to like kind of like trying to understand the gravity of what she's doing. And she honestly became the most interesting character this episode for me.
Sure.
And even throwing back like for all time, always.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of become this weird, like, cut off one head type of thing, or, one world, one people type of thing. Like it's this little like phrase that's been kind of like twisted, which is really great.
We see Renslayer, not only we see her as a not timekeeper, but we see her as a Minuteman for a while, and then we see her grow into her role now. And at the end, she one knows about the timekeepers not being really who they are. She is like hiding all this information. She knows that they're all variants. All this information she knows, and she potentially might be a variant. Why, like, are you surprised that she's still with them? And it kind of goes into Cammy Egan says, is she protecting someone else, possibly Kang? So does the TVA, does it not get destroyed? Like, what's going on? That's the like question, because there's so many questions. Who's the big bad now? We thought it was the Timekeepers. Is it Time Slave? All right, like, is it Ravonna? There's just so much to think about. But yeah, that's a big question. What do you guys think about that? Kate, go first.
I think it's Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes.
I think Tara Strong is coming back. I feel like she's coming back, and something's gonna happen, because she's like the weirdest being in the whole freaking universe. She's like sentient, but a projection. But she can be in a screen and out of a screen, and it's like she's kind of like she's stuck in the form of this clock, but she's not. And it's like, who is she? And it's the coolest thing. And she doesn't just speak for the Timekeepers. She's kind of running the show. The first voice you hear is her going like, this is how everything's laid out. Y'all come back now, you hear? Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
and it's like the idea of Tara Strong actually appearing in human form, which when we see at Comic-Con, it's like so seldom you see her on screen in like 3-dimensional, actually, with skin as opposed to animated. So I like the idea of that she pops back up. It's funny, you brought up Wizard of Oz before. And previously, I talked about like the movie Brazil, as far as like kind of touchstones I feel like they were using. This episode, though, to your points, also remind me a little bit of The Trial by Franz Kafka. I don't know if you guys ever had to read that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's a great story.
Or even Jean-Paul Sartre's No Exit. And in both cases, that idea of almost like you don't know where you are or why you're there. Right. And that really, especially early in this episode when we see young Sylvie, like she gets arrested and she's a kid, and you're like, what did she possibly do? And she's literally sitting there playing with toys. And I know the toys were all Easter eggs to various things from the Thor mythology, but this idea of like almost like what you're doing, why you're there. You don't really know. You're a variant, but what have you done? And the idea of detection by deletion, something there too of like, okay, it's like the Salem witch trial. You know, if they sink, they weren't a witch, but now they're dead. There's something like that too, which is so interesting. It's in essence like, if you're a robot, you'll get destroyed from the inside out. It's like, okay, but if I'm a robot, what did I do? Like, what did that robot do? So, I mean, I think this idea that this episode only made more intriguing. It's the idea of like, okay, is anyone running the show? Well, of course there is. And yeah, I mean, the smart money bet might be Kang or Kang's, accountant or someone like that who might be the middle, because you don't quite get Kang yet in TV land. You just get Kang's, financial planner or something. But I think there is something to be said here for like, we don't really understand this place still. 4 episodes in, somehow we're getting more answers and less clarity, which is kind of exciting. Makes it more mysterious, more riveting, and like more stuff that also I want to keep watching more episodes, because like, holy crap, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. So that's been the fun of it for me, is in essence we really don't know who's running the show or who is in on it.
Right.
Like how many people are sort of behind the scenes, how many of them are just worker bees, and that's the wonderful question they got to explore in the next 2 episodes, in the next hour and 25 minutes of screen time, minus credits, of course.
Ugh.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it with the pacing of this series, and there's been articles out. I'm kind of touched on just multiple series in this question.
Mm-hmm.
The pacing, like we're 4 episodes in, and we kind of figure out we have a new big bad. We kind of thought there was a big bad at first. We changed that. We don't really know who the main. I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing. Whether it's the big bad changing, the protagonist changing, the storyline changing from what we thought going in, and then just the fact that like there's a lot of information when you get like this episode. When we got Loki, we got the first 2 episodes. When we got WandaVision, we got the first 2 or 3 episodes. I can't remember, but like you have to like set up the show quick enough for the fans. And we're sometimes in Marvel movies, we only see them for 2.5 hours, so the stories kind of develop quick. We're not used to this as Marvel fans. Have you guys felt a certain way about the pacing of these films? Are these Disney Plus TV series? And Eric, I'm gonna go with you first, just because you said you enjoyed it, but just thinking about like the pacing of WandaVision, how we started with the sitcoms, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier, when we didn't really know who the bad guy was until like the 5th episode. So it's just like each has their own pacing issues. But overall, what did you think?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I remember Falcon and Winter Soldier. We talked about also episode 1. The irony of it is it wasn't Falcon and Winter Soldier. It was Falcon, Winter Soldier. Like they didn't even connect in that first episode. Right. And so I think Falcon and Winter Soldier, the pacing didn't feel as smooth. I think this one's got actually a really lovely build. And even that last week's episode, which I had to, just in terms of what I read about it, not everyone was as on board with that one. But there was a defense, of course, of the Doctor Who-ness of this from Craig, which I'll get behind as well. Because I thought part of pacing is, you need peaks and valleys in storytelling. And that didn't feel like it slowed things down. It felt like it actually deepened their relationship. Thank you. I agree, Craig. No Doctor Who shaming here. I do feel like this is a safe place for Whovians. But I think I've really enjoyed the pacing here. I think it's given us enough. I mean, my whole thing with this feeling like the second to last episode was just because it raised so many stakes. It answered so many questions.
Right.
But then, and by the way, you guys know there was an ending in the credits. There was a scene in the credits, right?
There was a mid-credit sequence.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we just haven't got to that point. We can talk
sure,
about it.
Remember, we had that with Michael before. He didn't even realize it until the middle of the thing, and then he went and watched it. So,
That's
for those
funny.
who don't know, there is a mid-credit moment we'll get to. But I really enjoy the pacing here. I feel like it's gotten me involved. It's gotten me further in. Even the first episode, I thought, gave us quite a bit. And so I think this is one that I don't know how COVID affected this series versus the other two. It just feels like there's a bit more control here than the other two in terms of just the sort of pacing of it. It just felt, it's so far for me at least, has felt smoother. How about thee, Kate?
Yeah. Okay, how do you
No,
think?
I'm reading this. I think that the timing for each of these 3 series happened how they needed to happen based on WandaVision's. Having worked on WandaVision, they added a couple episodes during quarantine, and so I think it actually helped not only lengthen the story but build out the outside world a little bit more. And in terms of working within, each sitcom had their own theme of what they were focused on and how they attacked that theme, and allowing that to kind of grow the audience and grow the story within these 2 characters. I thought it was really, really smart pacing, but you have to go into the sitcom pacing because that's what they were doing. The whole point was for the Falcon and Winter Soldier to connect by the end of the series. So I actually really enjoyed that they didn't interact in the first episode whatsoever. And that it was called the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it doesn't mean that they were going to start out pals. And even in the beginning, it was like very, very like disjointed. And then on episode 5, they kind of started to kind of come to an understanding and then become a team. And then that evolved into Captain America Winter Soldier. For this one, because it's so screwy with time, it was nice to have like 2 one big expo dump episode where everything is explained, but also everything is going to change because that's the nature of time. And then you have a fast episode with a lot of stuff happening and a lot of like investigative work happening. You have a character build episode, and then you have an action oriented episode. So it's like everything's kind of like, it feels like the second episode and this episode are where like, oh my God, so much has happened. But the first and the third episode were like, oh yeah, we're just kind of like sitting back and like, show me this world. Like we need those like peaks and valleys in order to pull the story through. The relationship between Sylvie and Loki would not have made as much of an impact, chemistry or not, without just spending a half an hour with them. And just seeing what happens and seeing how they react to each other. I really like the timing of the episodes, but I also feel like for what they're talking about and for what they're discussing, and the themes that are inherent in each of the 3 separate shows, the timing and pacing of each fits what they're talking about. So it's hard to kind of compare and contrast all 3 of them because they're doing 3 different things, and I think they're doing them very, very well.
Yeah. I definitely see where you guys are coming from.
Guess who showed up?
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow.
America's sweetheart.
Our favorite guy.
Hi.
Look, thank you. Why don't you should just join in fully if you want to talk about the great show that is. No, we did not fire him. This is his show.
He's been pruned.
Exactly. Did you not watch the episode? He's been pruned. Obviously.
Been pruned.
And now I lost track of what I was about to say.
Sorry. I just saw him and I'm like,
No, that's perfect. We'll go to some comments because there's a question. We kind of talked on it, but it's just this more or less of what do you think is going to happen? Do we think that Sylvie will become the Enchantress, betray Loki, team up with Gore, the God Butcher? So it's like pretty much going into what's going to happen, and then does this lead into Thor 4? Because we know that is already done filming. There's Gore the God Butcher. We got Lady Thor in there. We have so many different characters. We have the Guardians of the Galaxy in Thor 4. Do we really think Lady Loki or Enchantress is going to be part of it? Kate, what do you think?
I hope so, but I don't know so, and that really irritates me. I feel like to add Sylvie into Taika Waititi's universe, I think that I don't know if that's the story he's telling. in terms of, because I've, when you get the Lady Thor and you get Jane Foster and her kind of like coming back, I don't know if they want to add too many ingredients to that pot right there. If they do show up, it's going to be very small. And it's going to be a very minimal thing because they don't want to take away from not only the 5 Guardians, because I do think that there's also like a hunt for Gamora that's going to happen. Thor and then Lady Thor. There's a lot of ingredients in that pot already. I am not sure they have enough to fit. Hey, can you include the the Loki variants that we're doing in this television show? I don't know if they're going to do that.
Yeah,
well, it feels like it might be timed out too far away as well, right? So first of all, are they going to call it Thor with like TH with a 4 as like their official sort of title? I hope they do not, and
I hope they don't either.
And yet I hope they do. But I think it's going to be too far out. And I think to your point, Kate, right? It's like, hey, Taika, yeah, congrats on the Oscar. Would you mind working in these ancillary characters, please, to a very crowded house? Because, Thor, God of Thunder, or Love and Thunder, it's already very full. Right now, with what we know about, before we even get into the stuff we don't know about. So I do think trying to add these elements to it.
Thor Loco. Thanks, Mike.
Thor Loco Taco, I believe is the full name.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be, I don't see this intersecting there because also it's going to be over about a year away, right? So even that, then it's like, okay, we're going to wait a year for these characters to show up who will probably not show up in any of the other properties until then. Right. So it's a big ask.
Yeah. I almost think that she's going to play someone in the same role as what Agatha is in the future, where she's going to pop up, but she's not going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie. She's not going to be in this case in the next Thor movie. I think it's a long game type play, and
here's an idea. Here's a crazy idea. What if Valentina recruits her as part of this like alternate Avengers that she's building? Because obviously she's got US Agent now. They're building Valentina as a future character, and they're building out this like alternate Avengers thing. And like it would surprise me greatly if Valentina doesn't keep showing up.
100%.
And by alternate Avengers, no, but as alternate Avengers, we also mean TV salary Avengers. So ones where it's like, oh yeah, we can, all these sort of folk, we can afford them for 6 episodes on TV without breaking the bank. So give us the other Russell, not the Kurt, but the kid.
The kid,
Give us Loki, but not the Loki, the other.
Not the Loki, like the cheap Loki.
Right.
Exactly.
Give us the Spider-Man of Lokis, and thus we have her.
But it's all these like, like I was thinking about it as like US Agent is an alternate, a variant of Captain America. And it's like, what else is there a variant? Like, what if she, at the end of all this, when, is she able to kind of go into a timeline and be her own self when the multiverse kind of implodes? What if she enters the 616 timeline and Valentina gets her?
But by the way, Michael Shirley showed up just to complain about Loki.
Oh, I know.
Well, Michael is playing the role of both Waldorf and Statler.
This is great. Michael Shirley, no idea what any of this Loki nonsense you guys are talking about. Great. Love to have you. Keep the comments rolling in. Go ahead and put a smash the like button, Michael. I'll see you soon.
I'm really happy too, Michael, because I would not be here if you were here.
We are
the only one.
So I feel like we talked about a lot of things that happened in the episode. Everything that I wrote down, but is there anything that I missed that you guys want to talk about? Because we're definitely gonna go back into the Black Widow. I need more information from Kate about that, and then we're gonna have predictions. But before that, I want to make sure we covered everything in this episode.
Oh God, how do we even get everywhere? I think the Nexus event is going to be super important because the Nexus event is about belief. It was the first time that I've seen where it's not just like you do a wrong action and that makes you like you're late for work, you cause a world war. and that causes a nexus event. Or
Right.
like, you know, like you go to somewhere you're not supposed to, you escape somewhere you're not supposed to escape to. This is the first time where it's like they turn to each other. She definitely like makes contact, and it's like thought and belief causes a nexus event. So I'm wondering if thought and belief being the cause of an event, if all of the variants in the TVA suddenly believe that they're real people, if that can cause a nexus event in and of itself, that belief and thought can actually cause a rupture. And what that means for, like, you don't even have to have this like giant time war. It's just about belief. The belief in the sacred timeline keeps it stable.
So
And when you don't believe, and like that's why that in episode 2, that like conversation between Mobius and Loki, I figuring it out. It's about belief. Oh, you believe that the timeline is like this. You believe that God exists. You believe that this is real. And it's like, oh yeah, because it is real. And it's like, no, it's real because you believe it. And maybe there is no big bad. It's just belief that has been kind of like harbored in on itself. And when they stop believing, it will implode. Because it's like most major, like, you know, schools of thought and schools of like even like religion or faith, it's like, this is, you have to believe this, and this is the regimented order of things. And when you step outside that order, it all falls apart.
I just highlight that just because you, right when you said it, yeah, they put it in there. So Eric, did you want to jump in, or did you have?
Yeah,
I got real excited when I'm just like, oh,
I'm now only going to talk in Hebrew.
Yes.
For the what now? You know, one thing too, in terms of the sort of philosophy here and the spirituality. One thing I'm always kind of fascinated by, if no one's watching, then it's on us, right? So depending, you know, everyone's got their different beliefs and like higher power, no higher power, spirituality. I mean, we all have our angles on these things. But in this, what was really interesting, and then, okay, we're at the top level, seemingly. We meet the timekeepers. Nope, they're just robots. And then we are all sitting there like, well, what's behind all of this? Who's running it? And then that possibility, what if no one's running it? You know, and then it's like, oh, shit. Like, what if no one's watching? Then it is truly on us. It's truly on these Minutemen and the timekeepers and our friend Miss Minutes to figure out, like, okay, well, in the absence of a god, then we are our own gods, and I think like that was kind of an interesting moment for me as I'm watching this. I assume there'll be someone pulling the strings, but just for a moment, it's like, what if no one's pulling the strings? And then it's like, well, then how did they all get stuck here? And if they leave, will it be pure chaos? In essence, will the destruction of the TVA actually create the multiverse we're going to see in potentially Spider-Man and Doctor Strange? Like, is this right? The event here is, in essence, people leaving their posts because, and you know, in the end of it all, because their leader was proved to be nothing but a machine, nothing but a, you know, an empty vessel. Will they just stop going to work? And then what's going to happen? I think that's the exciting stuff to me.
So I not to like jump too far off of what you were saying, I saw this message and then also this one as well. This one, sorry. So they're disbelieving about the timeline. So as in like the Minutemen are disbelieving, but yet the branches are not being caused. So it kind of goes, I don't know if it technically goes against what Kate was saying, but like, well, how do we understand what's really causing it? Because at the end of it, Morbius doesn't believe it. B15, C20, they don't believe it. Am I?
Because the CBA isn't part of the timeline.
Okay. So like you can.
Thanks, Daniel.
You can be there. So you can be in there and not believe it, and then it just doesn't matter. But I'm just like,
but
it also
took two of the Loki variants looking at each other and having a similar thought. Like it took this type of motion instead of just like, oh, I don't believe anymore. It took this, which is why, like, I think Mobius, when he turned to Loki, and the last thing he says to Loki, really, before he gets pruned, is you can be whoever you want and do whatever you want to do, just in case nobody told you that.
Right.
And it was like the only kind of like parenting thing he got this whole time. It's like, you know, you can be whoever you want to be, man. because I think he knows he's going to get it. Like he knows he's not going to make it out.
By the way, weren't you guys happy that the jet ski got mentioned? I know we lean into jet ski a lot in this show, but I think we're one step closer to Owen Wilson riding off into the sunset, maybe with Luke Wilson on matching scooters. You're matching jet skis. That's the dream.
I love the idea that Loki enacts the dream for his friend. Like Loki riding a jet ski is amazing.
Loki riding a jet ski. Not even
that Loki like goes to like the Bahamas after this is all over, and it's like, I'm gonna learn how to ride a jet ski in honor of my friends.
You mean Loki Wilson?
Loki Wilson.
Loki Wilson.
I need to.
And the jet ski's name's Red Wing.
just because, honestly, just because. I need to like
he's on the beach.
Yeah. Plus, I think all of us would really like to see either Loki variant in some sort of swimwear getting a tan.
Both.
I'm in. Trust and believe I'm in.
So with the jet, just going back on the jet ski real quick, I that whole scene was just sad. Where he like got caught, and you could see that Renslayer kind of like felt for a little bit, but like she said prune him when he was talking about the jet ski. She obviously knows all the backstory of everything because she knows all the information now, and we see her in the beginning of this. We see her as a variant or as a Minuteman herself, so it's just confusing to me. What transformation did she have to go to like be okay with this? Like, was she always playing him? Because when she was talking to him in the room, they're like, we have this special type of friendship. No one's like us. Like, out of all the ages in the world, like no one has a special friendship. I was like, is that just called a relationship? Like, what are you saying? Like, just let me know, because it seemed weird to me, their relationship, how that went down. And then at the end, she was like, yeah, prune him. I don't care. But he was talking, but it just seemed there was a lack of empathy, or she just really didn't care.
I'm also wondering if like because she was so protective of the timekeepers, and because in like episode 2 or 1, he's like, please let me see them. 2, he's like, please let me see the timekeepers, and she's like, no, and then suddenly he's going to get access when they present the variants. I'm wondering if he was always going to die. Like once he's outlit, like he's too close to all these Lokis. He's like might have been kind of corrupted already. Like it seems like the weird like presentation of the variants was to be killed, and it's like anyone in addition to that might have been on the chopping block as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say they finished. Like you said, he finished what he needed to do. He signed the paperwork. He was about to do a congratulatory drink. Maybe that second drink was going to be his last. Eric?
Oh, that's true. He drinks it, and it's pruning in liquid form now.
Oh.
All the power of prune in a smaller bottle. He drinks it. Boom. But, well, okay, 2 thoughts about her. Okay, 1, you know some music she was listening to? Remember we were talking about the reel-to-reels?
Yeah.
She was listening to, like, theremin music.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. This is what she does for fun, is listen to theremin music, which I can really get behind as a fan of old school Beach Boys and Monkees music. So 1, 2, okay, do you guys have a password on your iPhone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
As do I, as does my son, who's 12. She didn't have a password on her temp pad? Like when he switched them? And he just was like, done.
She never had a password because 9-year-old Sylvie got on that thing, and she was like, I'm ready to go, and she already knew how to use it at 9 years old. Right. So it's like it has to be easy to use.
Apparently, well, and you figure if she's got all these secrets on hers, I don't know, and maybe they don't have that piece of technology just yet. Like the password update is next week. But I was just like, really? Like, it was that easy to get on?
It was like Sam not having his phone on vibrate.
Yeah. Right. Or just turned it off.
Or just turn off your phone.
But it was one of those moments, and I don't look for those. I got to be honest. Even with doing this show, I don't look for those. But that was a moment where I was just like, really? Like, because I thought that also could be a fun moment where he has to figure out how to crack in. Like that could have been in of itself kind of an interesting, like kind of mini little set piece. But apparently a lack of passwords is a hallmark of the TVA.
Well, look,
they are in the 1950s, so
exactly. Their time is relative. It's just different over there. I low key think it might be not. I didn't mean to say Loki, but I lost track. I think it might be Ultron. You know, you never know. We're dealing with computers. We're dealing with it. Who else can judge people and think that they're the end all be all of who deserves to live and die in all time? Sounds like Ultron. And you know, this
sounds like Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos, everybody. But I like my Ultron theory. Better not, just kidding. But before we get into theories for episode 5, I want to talk a little bit more into Black Widow because we all thought, at least I did, coming into this week of Loki, we might actually see Scarlett Johansson. They teased her. They teased a scene that made Lady Loki's hair look a little red.
Yeah.
So we obviously see it wasn't Black Widow, but you got to see Black Widow in theaters. How was that? We talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but yeah, let's just dive back in.
Well, so I know people are.
I was also going to say, was it like a full premiere, like post-COVID-y, like people red carpet-y thing?
It was at the El Capitan, and it was really, really nice to be back in that theater. They had like by groups, like you were with your group, and then there was a couple seats missing, and then there was another group. So you still kept kind of COVID protocols available. I'm actually really excited because I think they hit the opening week pretty spot on. I think most people are comfortable going back into a theater, so I think it's actually going to do really well. And now because the theaters are open, it's going to be cheaper to go into a theater than to get it on Disney Plus. So I think most people who are like, oh, I don't want to go to a theater, are going to pay for it on Disney Plus, and that's going to add to their revenue. But most people are going to go see it in a theater, and it's going to add to that box office, which is really great. And because it was at El Cap, the movie just started. There was no trailers. I do know, for those who are also Disney fans, no, Christian is the Marvel noble. I just got really lucky to be number 5 on the list that could make it. And what was I saying? Oh crap!
Sorry, I saw that.
No. But there is a Jungle Cruise trailer that came out today. So Jungle Cruise is also coming out the next month, which should be really fun and baller. So if you want to go look it up, Skipper Frank has a new trailer for y'all.
That was so. Were there any cast members there? Or
no
anything?
Cast there. It was just for press. It was just press.
That's cool. I saw a lot of news coming out like later that day, so I assumed a lot of press was there. Yeah,
it was a press screening only, and it was an advanced screening for all the press so they could start writing their reviews of it. So they could be ready. They could be ready. But then a lot of people are now like posting like, spoiler alert, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, come on, man. Like, let's just let people enjoy this movie.
Exactly. So there are spoilers that are going to be implications through Phase 4 because this is a prequel.
Yes, this is a prequel, but it's not as far back. It has been revealed that this is between Infinity War. No, this is between Captain America Civil War and Infinity War. Yeah. This is what takes place in between those two movies. It is not her origin story. It does go into her origins and where she came from and how she came to be Black Widow, why she's called Black Widow. I think if they changed the title, that would have been easier for me to take. Just because of the question of who is the movie about. Yeah. But it was a really nice note for her to end on as a character. She's probably, with the exception of Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Downey Jr., she's been in the MCU the longest as a main player. She's been in it since Iron Man 2. And for her to get her own standalone film, and I was halfway through the film. This isn't the first time a female has led an MCU movie. We had Captain Marvel, which had its problems. And we had, on the DC EU side, we had Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah.
This movie didn't feel like a female-led movie. it felt like a good movie which had a female star. And it didn't feel like I was being beaten over the head with it. It felt like a good James Bond or a good Mission Impossible movie. Like, it didn't really matter who was the lead of it, and it wasn't about that really at all. I mean, it was about her, so it's really hard for me to talk about it without talking about it.
Yeah.
But it just felt like a solid, good spy action movie. And the MCU hasn't really done anything like that before. And this is also like a superhero with no powers. She's not a super soldier. She's not, the Hulk. She's not, Tony Stark. She is herself. Like, she is completely reliant and resourceful on what she has and what she knows and how she gets information out of people. And so even though she is the Black Widow, she's kind of, put in these great situations where those skills are put to the test. Her skills are put to the test, not her powers. So I really, really enjoyed that. And she is fantastic. She EPs this as well. And congrats to Scarlett Johansson. And thank you for a great 11 years.
Yeah, well deserved.
If you feel comfortable for COVID safety, I would see it in theaters. Because there's a lot of CG elements. There's a lot of big action sequences. And, to be enveloped in something like this, in this story, and me personally, I will throw my money at Marvel and throw my money at the universe to get more movies like that. It is well written. It is well directed. Make more movies like that. So if you feel comfortable, go see it in a theater. It's worth it. If you do not feel comfortable for your safety or the safety of your family, rent it. Have some friends over, pay $5 each. Like, somebody pick up a pool and just buy it. But I would see it if you feel you can.
That's what's up. Now, I appreciate the recap, the thoughts on her whole storyline, and like you said, this is well deserved, been past due. So I'm super pumped to watch it, and super pumped to see what implications the movie has for Phase 4, because obviously Scarlett has ended her time in the MCU, but I'm so excited to see, because we last saw her, or in the timeline, if I'm correct, we last saw her kind of letting Captain America leave and kind of going back on Black Panther in Civil War on the tarmac. And then the next thing you see is Captain America and her side by side saving Vision and Wanda. Am I correct on those two beginning and end points? Okay, yeah. So it's like those are the points that we need to see how she got. So is Captain America in this movie?
No.
These are questions. Okay, you didn't have to ruin it for me. I could have thought, but no, these are just the questions, the thoughts that we have to think about, because it's not a prequel, like you said. There's so much implications for what's going on forward. But I'm just excited to see what happens. We have a lot of stuff to. Yeah. We have 2 more weeks till then, but we have
it's the 9th.
So 9 days. So or 10 days. But we do have another episode before then. So we got to talk about Loki.
Weird. And it's weird that it kind of falls between episode 5 and 6.
Yeah.
I know that was something I think you had thrown out there at one point, Kate, this will end and then it goes right into Black Widow. But it's wait, no, it's a week off. Right. Mm-hmm. So I guess next week is a very good week to be a Marvel fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely. The 2 episodes plus a movie in the course of 7 days. I feel like we're being rewarded for being loyal.
I will definitely take
crazy.
It. Yeah, I will definitely take it after a year of no content. So, any Marvel content, all the Marvel content, send it our way. But we have I think that'll do it for us. We take a little over the hour, but we appreciate you guys all sticking with us and being in the comments and continuing the conversation with us, because it's more than just us three. Even when Christian's on here, you guys are a huge part of it in the comments. So continue to talk with us, to tell us what's going on, if we miss anything, or if you want us to talk about something as well. But with that said, let's go into predictions for next week real quick, and then we'll end it. Kate, what you think is happening next week?
Oh no, B-15 is going to go back into her past. I think she's going to go try to find herself. I don't actually know, because she didn't get pruned. Sylvie's going to find out who the F is with the timekeepers, and she's going to get all of the answers that she needs to ramp us into episode 6. We're going to figure out if it's just all the Lokis that are in what looks like a destroyed version of New York because Avengers Tower is in the background. And why there's so many Lokis and I was so happy to see Kid Loki. And like, I think it's just going to be like a Loki weird orgy thing. And I'm going to be very stoked about that. And like, what happens when you're pruned, which I also really enjoyed the like little nod to like Coulson with how he got pruned, which was real nice. I think it's going to be what happens when you're pruned and who really are the timekeepers. It's going to set up the finale. What if that's still open? We're in New York.
I mean, they are in
Eric. What if they go get shawarma?
I'm really
so excited.
Well, or maybe they go and get pastrami now. I think,
or like Baskin Robbins,
right? Like whatever's the whatever's the TV budget version of shawarma.
Yes,
I suppose it's just shawarma. To be honest, it's not that expensive. I'm excited. Richard E. Grant, who showed up at the end, right? As old Loki. And I love that costume that looked like straight out of the 80s comics. I was so excited. And he like wore it like, that thing takes over your whole body. And yet he like was rocking it and his posture was perfect. So I'm really excited about seeing that Loki. You like your kid. I like my old man. And so it even says, by the way, special guest appearance. I thought that was a nice little tip that these guys are all going to matter, including, I don't know, is his name Jack Veal, which I think was one of them. I'm excited to have more veal, as we all should be, unless you're a vegan, in which case, God bless. Enjoy your tofu. But, I mean, seconding what Kate was saying in terms of questions answered, questions asked. I mean, what's exciting to me is that there is 2 more episodes. So even after 45 minutes of show, we're not hitting the big climax of this thing, which will be, I guess, all out revolution between whoever's really running the show of TVA and then the Loki party. Team Loki is going to be a lot of fun. And I love too, by the way, when we came out of that into the mid-credit sequence, you notice how different it looked. Like the cinematography of it, the way it was filmed, so the idea of we're sort of out of the TVA and thus almost like a whole new set of rules of what the storytelling will be. I'm excited about that as well. So, I'm just stoked. Once again, Wednesday can't come soon enough, and I'll still be on the East Coast, which means 3 a.m., not midnight like you people. So, I'm a night owl, but I don't know if I'm a 3 a.m. owl.
Well, my flight leaves in about 5 hours, so I'll be joining
Indiana.
On the East Coast, or at least the Midwest, very soon. So I'll be watching it at
Technically, Indiana is not on the East Coast. Thank you.
I know. I said or the Midwest. I said or the Midwest. I know.
I'm gonna hold the fort down in good California.
Yeah, and I'll be joining the Midwest. Let me clarify. Even though Indiana is not in the middle of, we're not gonna get into it. I'm going to
Northwest.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're doing. So I'll be watching it at a later time as well. I kind of agree with you. I'm excited for the multiple Lokis. I'm hoping this is a tease into what we're gonna see into the madness. Wow, I can't even speak.
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness, because we're going to see multiple versions of multiple superstars and multiple multiple Spider-Man. We're just teasing into that. Just saying, maybe we'll get a teaser soon. Maybe we'll get a trailer soon. Maybe not, because, they always tease us about that. But we'll see. Maybe next week I'll complain some more. But until then, I appreciate you guys all for joining. Kate,
Thank
where
you,
can
Jeff.
they find you?
Jeff did great work.
Jeff did amazing.
Appreciate it.
Even if Michael Shirley didn't knock you off.
I know.
Exactly. He was trying, though. He was trying.
Oh, yeah.
He was trying real hard. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Cornellable. It's right there. Did it. Made it happen. And next week, I'll see y'all next week.
True.
And I'm Twittering. I'm Twittering at Conner. I'm Instagramming there. I'm TikToking at Cornellable. And then other voices available on Amazon Prime for rental or purchase if you're bold. Thank you much.
That's what's up. And yes, I am Jeff Williams, at Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms. Thank you guys again for tuning in and continuing conversation with us. Because you guys are with us in the panel. Like I said earlier, we love hearing from you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. So as Christian would say, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior. Have a good one, y'all.